Okay, everyone, I think we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I hope everybody is settled and everything, but good afternoon. So excited to have you all here today here at Tech Nexus. Today we're going to be presenting one part of our three-part Illinois Innovation Index series, the STEM Talent Index on all things workforce development here in the state of Illinois. And to kick things off as a little bit of housekeeping briefly, we are going to first be doing a keynote presentation from Dr. Jonathan Makala, moving into a presentation of the data itself, which will feature in our report, which is live on our webpage. If you're interested in downloading the full thing with all of its features and widgets, we've got everything up on our webpage now for the 2023 STEM Talent Report. In addition to that, at the end of the event, capping the event, will be a panel conversation with our amazing panelists. I'll be introducing them later, but without further ado, I would like to go ahead and introduce Dr. Jonathan Makala to this Tech Nexus stage. Dr. Makala is a University of Illinois professor at the Urbana-Champaign campus at the Granger School of Engineering. He is the Abel Bliss Scholar for Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of Urbana-Champaign. And there he is also a person who wears many hats, including as the undergraduate director of programming for the school, the Granger School. We're really excited to have him today as he is an expert in all things remote sensing technology and undergraduate programming at the University of Illinois, as well as interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research among faculty members. And so we're really excited to get a chance to hear from him about programming at the University of Illinois. So Dr. Makala, I'll let you go ahead and take it away. All right.
Thank you, Austin. So yes, my name is Jonathan Makala. As Austin said, I'm Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs at the Granger College of Engineering. I'm also a Professor of Electrical and Computer Engineering. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is working and providing experiences for our students to prepare them for the real world, so to speak, and make sure that they are prepared to step out from the university setting and be impactful and leaders in the field throughout their careers. What I'm going to spend my time talking to you about today is the work that we've been doing, and really this is a campus-wide effort, not just something that is siloed in the Granger College of Engineering, as we work to provide multidisciplinary pathways to computer and data science for our students. And really the subtitle there, I think it hits it well. How can collaboration across disciplines scale computing and data science education to meet tomorrow's needs? So what I want to talk about is the approach that we've been taking and some of the successes and challenges that we see ahead of us as we continue down this path. So I don't think I need to tell this audience, but clearly there is a demand for computer and data science skill sets in today and tomorrow's workforce. However, more and more those skill sets don't exist siloed in traditional computing fields, and they are spread across industries. And while I firmly believe not everyone needs to be a computer scientist or a data scientist, I do think those skill sets are becoming increasingly part and parcel for what a successful career looks like, regardless of what you end up doing in your career. And so we have been working to really address this demand, and I apparently wiggled a cable here. Let's see if that comes back. Looking at the landscape, right? Technology adoption is a key driver for business transformation, and it has been for the past decade plus, and it's going to continue to be so over the coming years, right? And estimates, depending on what study you look at, of essentially doubling the number of tech jobs over the next 5 years or so. This is really, these skill sets are going to be in demand. But I think importantly, it's not just the tech sector that needs these skill sets, right? Big data, cloud computing, artificial intelligence are intertwined in everything, right? Big data has transformed the healthcare industry to be able to provide more personalized care. Cloud computing has transformed agriculture as we look towards precision farming to be able to feed the world. Artificial intelligence has changed the financial sector, right, in terms of how we create and trade commodities. And so regardless of what field a student is thinking about going into in their career, having those skill sets is going to be more and more important. And really, I'm thinking these days that computing, data science is really the third pillar for engineering education, alongside math and physics. But I think what we also need to realize is it is more of a general education requirement across the entire university, right? We need to have people from all walks of life conversant in these skill sets, in these technologies. And so just as a data point, it's clear that these sort of graphs, this sort of demand is being heard loud and clear by our students, by their families, and as they're making decisions about what degree programs they're going to be applying to, we see that in the numbers, right? So essentially, we've seen a 20% increase, 20% of the campus undergraduate applications to Illinois, University of Illinois, are to computer science across the entire campus. And within the College of Engineering, 45% of the applicants are to the computer science program. Okay, so students know that this is a pathway to success. We've seen more than a 30% increase in the number of undergraduate, research-based, master's, and PhD enrollments in our Department of Computer Science over the past 4 years. And we've seen a 400% increase in the professional master's degree programs on our campus in computer science. And that is just huge demand. And what we have struggled with in some ways is how do you meet that demand, right? As I said, that can't all be in the computer science department, right? We've become lopsided, out of balance in terms of what our faculty can support and how we can continue to provide strong student experiences. And so that's the question we grapple with, is right, how do we in higher education approach that increase in demand, both in terms of the number of students, but also the breadth of the impacted fields. And so I'm going to talk about sort of two strategies that we have taken in the college and across campus. And I do really mean across campus. This is a lot of the work, especially in the data science area, is in close collaboration with our liberal arts and science college, especially as it pertains to things like math and stats, but also our information sciences school, the iSchool, is a very tight-knit partner in this endeavor. But the two things I'm going to talk about sort of from a strategy standpoint is how we integrate computing and data science across all the disciplines with the Granger College of Engineering. So not just in the computer science department, but across all of our degree programs. How can we work to make sure our engineers are graduating with those skill sets? And then the second is how do we integrate that then also outside of the college across all of our as many degree programs as we can within the university itself. So this flow diagram sort of shows sort of the decision process that an applicant might make in terms of deciding what they want to study. And I think that large increase in applications that we saw, 20% to the university, 45% to the department, are that top row, right? These are students that are applying for the CS bachelor's degree. They sort of know from the onset that they want to do computer science and that that's going to be the direction that they want to go with their undergraduate education. And that's the traditional pathway. We want to support that, and we have an excellent program to make sure that that experience is very strong. That middle group, the orange one, is the CS minor. And so what the CS department has worked on over the past, I would say, 5 to 6 years or so, is to really scale the introductory coursework in computer science to make it available very, very broadly. Probably a decade or so ago, that scaling wasn't there, and the CS minor was essentially something you had to apply for. Now it is completely open. So any student that wants to pursue that minor has that ability. And so that's really there for the student that I would say comes to CS a little bit later. Or they have a passion in mechanical science, but they also realize that they're going to need to have that CS credential down the pipeline. So what we've seen essentially a doubling in the number of students that are pursuing that minor and have achieved that minor in the past 2 years. So about 200 students are obtaining that minor each year. We have about 1,300 students in the CS bachelor's program, just to give you a scaling there. The light blue box there is then that next level. So how, even for the students that didn't think about CS as their major, They don't necessarily want to pursue it as a minor, but how do we make sure that they're still getting those skill sets? And that's computing across the curriculum. So we've had our faculty over the past 5-6 years really thinking about what are meaningful computing or data science exercises, modules that can be put in different parts of that 4-year experience for our students to make sure that they've seen how you translate from a physical equation into a Python numerical module so that you can run a model. So what are those authentic experiences within your own domain that you're studying that make sure you come out of the program with those skill sets? Our computer science department has also started this program called ICANN. And so that is for those students that even come to computing a little bit later even. And so these are the students that maybe they have a bachelor's of science degree in math or in even history. And they now want to upskill so that they are prepared to enter a master's degree in computer science. And so that's what the ICANN program is aimed at, is working on upskilling those students. And we've seen a lot of success. We're in our 3rd year with that program. We've had about age range from 20 to 50 going through that program. And an overwhelming majority of the graduates from that certificate program have then continued and gained access and been accepted to the Master's of Computer Science degree at University of Illinois. And that pathway is also available to the students that complete the CS minor. If you complete the CS minor, you have a guaranteed spot in the Master's degree program. And so that, again, provides that pathway to that credential. So the second strategy is then stepping outside of the college and looking at blending degrees. And so we have 2 different flavors of blended degree programs at the University of Illinois, CS plus X, and then now more recently X plus DS. So we have 16 instantiations of the CS plus X degree programs spanning 6 distinct colleges. And we have 5 X plus DS programs spanning 3 colleges at this point. And it's important to note that these programs are not a minor, they're not a double major, they're a purposeful blending of computing and that discipline. So that X can be something like astronomy, it can be accounting, it can be crop science, it can now be bioengineering or physics in the College of Engineering. And so these are courses where, say, in the computer science plus X blended degree programs, you're still learning about software architecture, programming, algorithms, but then you also have disciplinary coursework at the lower level and the upper level. So you're gaining that disciplinary expertise in astronomy, in math, and then there are purposeful coursework that blends the computing and your discipline together. And these programs really benefit all the stakeholders involved. For the CS department, they love it because they get a diversity of thought in their classes, and the CS department treats all of the blended degree programs like their own. So they're advised by CS advisors, they have opportunities as all the CS students would have, but they are bringing different backgrounds, different experiences, and different domain knowledges into the classroom, which then enriches the experience for the baseline CS students as well. It's enabled us to increase our CS enrollments. So there you can see from over the past 14 years or so how the enrollment growth has happened a little bit in the CS department as well, but we now have about the same number of students in the blended computer degree programs as we do in the CS degree programs. Right? So we've been able to scale those 2 in parallel with one another. If you want those QR codes there, we'll take you to more information about both the CS plus X and the X plus DS. The students also benefit tremendously as well. And that is also from sitting next to a broader swath of students. It gives them a flexible, enduring, highly marketable credential and skill set. And these plots I like as they compare what the outcomes in terms of the first destination, whether students go out into industry or go into a graduate degree program, looks like in the blended degree program versus the baseline X degree program. And so the students that pursue the blended degree, they are employed in industry at a significantly higher rate than the baseline X degree program, which tends to go the grad school rate. And that's across all of the different blendings that we have. And then their salaries are also significantly increased by pursuing the blended degree programs as opposed to the baseline. In fact, the blended CS students have salaries that are exactly the same as our CS students as a whole. So there are clearly benefits for the students as well. They are highly employable, they're sought after, and the employers see them as bringing that skill set that they're really looking for. But one of the interesting things we note, though, is that while students graduating with a degree in computing seek employment more often than continuing education, they're also less likely to stay in our state, right? We see that the blended degree and the computer science graduates tend to go, Illinois is still their top destination, right? But it's less likely that they end up in Illinois than our other degrees. And as you would expect, California, Washington, New York are where they tend to go, right? And so we're on average only retaining about 40% of those students in our state. And as the report points out, Chicago is one of the prime destinations for our computing and data science graduates. And so we've been working, and in partnership with our friends in DPI and the like, we have programming that we really work to focus on exposing our computing students to what is going on in the state and specifically in the city of Chicago. So City Scholars is one of those programs where students will intern up in the city for a semester while taking coursework, so it doesn't extend their time to degree. And what we find for the students that participate in the City Scholars Program, we've had about 400, it's 399, but I'll just round that up to 400, interns that have been placed since 2018 with 60 of our corporate partners. About 50 to 60% of those participants end up taking either another internship in the city or taking full-time employment in the city. So what we hear from our students, even the students that grew up in the suburbs, they don't really realize what's going on in the city. They don't realize that this is really the tech hub of the state, and there really are great opportunities here. And so we've been looking within the college on all these different ways that we can partner between Urbana-Champaign and the city to really bring better understanding both of what our college has to offer, but also what the city has to offer to our students. And so just a couple blocks down the road at 200 South Wacker, we're standing up various degree programs, educational programs, to help to bridge that divide so that more and more of our tech-prepared, tech-savvy graduates will make the choice to stay within the state and contribute to the great things that are going on in the state and the city. So with that, I will end and turn it back on over to Austin. I look forward to the conversation on the panel and to talk with you afterwards. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to quickly have Kate Calabra, the Director of Innovation for ISTC, go on and come up real quickly to go over some of our innovation team's work and a general overview of what ISTC and our goals are as an organization.
Ooh, brought my chair with me. Hi everyone, like Austin said, I'm Kate Calabra. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Illinois Science and Technology Coalition. There I am. ISTC has been around for nearly 35 years. We'll be celebrating our 35th birthday this summer. And we've been, yes, we're very excited. We're actually going to have a party. Stay tuned. We have been acting as a convener and connector for Illinois' innovation and STEM economy throughout our existence. And we do that across 4 pillars of work, which spell out IDEA, innovation, data, education, and advocacy. A majority of today's conversation will be a blend of our data and advocacy work, so I will quickly share a little bit of information about our innovation and education work. On the innovation side, ISTC works very closely with startups and small businesses to make sure they're finding success in the innovation world. And we do that through a series of networking events, as well as other events that help our entrepreneurs learn best practices to be the best version of themselves. And then on our education side, to help us serve the entire continuum of STEM learners, we have K through 12 education programming that helps to pair students in middle school and high school with mentors, either corporate mentors or personal mentors, and kind of bring that corporate connection into the classroom to help them see different pathways into STEM fields. And then the data and advocacy piece of it is what we're here to talk about today. ISTC has been leading the Illinois Innovation Index, and this is a 3-part report that we put out each year. Today you are here for one of those reports, which is the STEM talent, but we also have the research and development report, which we will be putting out this spring, and that one, but you can probably tell by its name, explores the trends in research and development to help us predict new trends within the actual market. And then we also have our university entrepreneurship report, which explores how many startups are coming out of Illinois universities and how that's helping to stimulate our economy. But like I said, today we'll be focusing on STEM talent, which is all about STEM supply and demand across the state. So now I'd like to reintroduce Austin, who you've met a couple of times, who's been leading this work for us, and we'll be giving you a summary of this year's report, which was released today. So you can go online and read the report yourself, and we really wanted to curate this room to have subject matter experts who already know a lot of this information, want to know more, and then we can continue the conversation throughout the year, whether it's ways to partner with each other, ways to identify new policies that we need to strengthen our collaborations, all those things. So kind of keep that in mind as you're listening to Austin's highlights, and then we'll move on to the panel discussion to talk about it some more. So Austin, come on up.
Great. All right. Thanks so much, Kate, and thanks so much, everyone, for being here. I see a lot of familiar faces as well as older faces, so I know that there's a lot of folks here that are new, and so hopefully Kate's message about our work is a little bit illuminating. If you're curious about our work, please feel free to approach either Kate or I on the innovation side, or our education team is also here with us in the room, so feel free to approach any of us if you're curious about any aspect of our IDEA framework. Like Kate said, I am Austin Green. I'm our Research and Policy Associate for ISTC, and I wear a number of hats for the organization, but one of which is the effort to advocate for the state's innovation economy. And we do that by supporting the work of multiple conveners in this space by providing data and advocacy work on the ground in Springfield and federally as well. So without further ado, I would like to go ahead and dive into our index reporting. And so the data each year that we compile from federal data sets does feature in the Illinois Innovation Index, but today we'll be focusing on STEM talent. So that's all things supply and demand of STEM workers in the state of Illinois and STEM education in the state. And so whenever we talk about STEM talent, we discuss it primarily from 2 lenses. The supply side, which includes all things STEM degree production in multiple different areas, where people are coming from in order to pursue a degree in Illinois, as well as where individuals are deciding to major as far as which subject areas they are interested in. And increasingly, over the last few years, we've noticed a gap in our analysis to make sure that we are analyzing pre-baccalaureate degree completions as well as community college graduates. We don't include community college graduates in our general STEM degree supply section, but we do have a separate aspect of the report that is focused on pre-baccalaureate completions. And some of the reasons for that is around 10.5% of the United States population has an associate's degree without a bachelor's degree or higher. That's about 22 million Americans that we believe are a market that deserves to be directed towards with STEM education approaches. Additionally, our report features some data on talent migration and retention. As Dr. Makula mentioned about computer science and biomedical science, we also have a number of other more granular detail in the report itself and the full report that you can access on our webpage. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the STEM talent supply section. So this year, in 2022, which is the most recent year that we had data from the National Center for Education Statistics, there was a record high number of STEM graduates in Illinois of 27,434 degree earners with a bachelor's degree or higher in a STEM relevant subject area. Illinois ranks 7th nationally in this metric, which is consistent with years prior and was also the case 10 years ago. We've continued to rank around that same pace because of a growth rate that is roughly similar with the United States growth rate overall of 4.2% annually on average since 2013. So between 2013 and 2022, degrees increased by about roughly 400 to 500 a year. And other states that are included in this top 10 list, including New York, Texas, and California, actually saw drops in STEM degrees between 2021 and 2022, whereas Illinois had a slight growth of 0.5%. So last year's total was around 27,200. This year's was 27,400. So some growth in general on STEM degrees overall. Whenever we look at STEM degrees by subject area, which is this area graph that you see on the right side here, it showcases that computer degrees are catching up to engineering degrees overall. Engineering is the most popular STEM major in Illinois, but computer science has quickly caught up over the last 10 years. Illinois is a leader in a number of these STEM subject areas, and computer science degrees are actually growing faster than the national rate in the state of Illinois. Business and management degrees, which include degrees within the econometrics as well as kind of mathematics-focused degrees within business, have also seen a surge. As you can see, they are the light purple degrees and have seen a significant surge, particularly coinciding with the onset of the pandemic. Illinois ranks third in business and management STEM degrees, third in computer and information science degrees, and then a traditional strength for the state, they are sixth in agriculture-related STEM degrees for bachelor's degree and higher, according to the National Center of Education Statistics. And so whenever we talk about community colleges and the impact that community college graduates have on the STEM talent pool, we see here that there is just over 121,000 community college and other types of completions that are awarded in STEM relevant subject areas in 2022. Illinois contributed a significant number of those, and they were third nationally in STEM relevant coursework for pre-baccalaureate completions. This is pretty significant, as the Illinois number is around about 10 to 15% of the overall slice of the national conversation around pre-baccalaureate completions. And then comparing us to the United States overall, Illinois actually eclipsed the United States average last year for the amount of degrees overall that are within STEM, so the composition of overall degrees that are within STEM. Around a quarter of all degrees awarded in 2022 were awarded in STEM subject areas. And so that is higher than the U.S. national rate and eclipsed that last year. We see here also that there is a potential impact of the fall of non-STEM degree earners, which we'll discuss a little bit later in the looking forward section, that has contributed to Illinois' growth in STEM degree composition as well. So diving into STEM jobs outside of the supply side, we're going to go into the demand side now. Illinois increased their amount of STEM job offerings from 2021 to 2022, increasing by roughly 20,000 as the return to work from the pandemic coincided with an increased number of jobs within a number of important sectors. We see here also that around 27.8 out of every 1,000 Illinois residents is employed within a STEM career field, and that is roughly 1 in every 40 Illinois residents that you can meet on the street. The increase has also been significant because at the same time that the United States has had a return to work of roughly 6.05% increasing over the last 5 years, Illinois is about 4.5% increasing in that same period. So keeping up with the national rate, again, Illinois ranks 7th nationally in STEM employment, just behind Georgia, Ohio, and a number of other states. This is slightly lower than we have been in the past, so we're looking forward to seeing in the future how those will increase. And ideally we'll move up in the rankings over the next few years as computer science degrees continue to, computer science roles continue to rise. Here that we have a composition chart of the different careers that our coding from the Bureau of Labor Statistics includes as large job categories. This includes over half of STEM roles that are within computer and software development. And then you also can see here a significant number of people in Illinois are employed within engineering as well as STEM management careers. So here there's a pretty busy graphic, but on the left, top part of this graphic, we see the percentage increases by STEM degree fields, those larger job title fields that we discussed in the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Since 2013, so between 2013 and 2022, mathematics degrees have increased by 13.2% on average in that time frame, with management degrees and social science degrees also increasing by over 5% in the same time span. Illinois has added over 3,000 STEM jobs in social science since 2013 and almost 5,000 more management roles. And we can see the counting number of jobs added at the lower part of this graphic that the percentages represent. Significant growth also within computer science or computer fields, which represent about 20,000 increasing jobs since 2013. In mathematics, Illinois ranks 5th nationally in mathematics roles, 6th in STEM education roles, and 5th in social science roles within the STEM careers. And then this is a little bit more of a granular look into the Bureau of Labor Statistics data. This is larger occupation codes with some of those occupations listed at the bottom here. Notable is along the middle, we see a number of really impressive increases for software developers. And so more than 30,000 statisticians, industrial engineering support roles, and software development roles have been created in Illinois since 2013. And we see also on the far right of this graphic some of the occupation titles that have had the most significant percentage increases since 2013. We see 86% 5-year growth between 2018 and 2022 for aerospace engineering support technicians, and a significant growth also for animal scientists and statisticians, which you see on the right side of the graphic there. So on the equity inclusion front, we have a number of highlights for this year. Importantly, the representation of Black individuals within STEM professions increased significantly since 2021, with nearly 8% of all STEM workers in Illinois identifying as Black. This is a really important trend and a significant growth from the year prior. This is also a record high for Illinois, and so we're really excited about the potential impact that diverse hiring programs are having in this demographic group. 14.7% of Illinoisans identify as Black, and around 4.3% of STEM awardees identify as Black on that same metric. So there is a considerable gap there, and that's indicative of work that still needs to be done. Unfortunately, since the pandemic onset, there has been a pretty significant lapse in the amount of STEM degrees awarded to Black individuals. And so ideally, as the pandemic wanes, there will be a resurgence in the data over the coming few years. On the for Illinoisans that are Hispanic or Latino identifying, there is 17.5% of Illinoisans that identify as Hispanic or Latino according to 2022 data from the American Community Survey. 9% of these individuals are, or 9% of STEM degree awardees in 2022 were Latino identifying, and 9.4% of STEM jobs were occupied by Latino individuals in STEM in 2022. There's been some rise in the last few years on this front, but the pandemic, again, has a pretty significant impact on STEM degree earners, unfortunately, and that gap will need to be narrowed over the coming few years. And then finally, another highlight that we had from this year's report that we're really excited about is the record high amount of degree earners, STEM degree earners in Illinois that identify as women. 39.8% of Illinois STEM graduates identify as women, according to our recording of the National Center of Education Statistics data. That is a record counting number of 10,912 degrees awarded to women identifying people. And then 29.8% of STEM employees in Illinois identify as women as well. So this eclipsed the national average for this metric in 2022, which is really exciting. It's indicative of some really important efforts that have been taking place in Illinois over the last 10 years that are beginning to show returns. This looks marginal, but we have increased over the national average in this time frame, and so that's really something that we wanted to hit home in the highlights portion. And speaking of the highlights, this is a little bit a slide to go over some of the general kind of highlights, lowlights of the report itself. The, of course, basic overview is that STEM degrees are higher than they've ever been. This is the 27,434 is the highest amount of STEM degrees that ISTC has recorded. Additionally, there is a surge in interdisciplinary and applied business degrees, as Dr. Makula spoke to, and that is occurring statewide. It also follows national trends and with growth in interdisciplinary approaches to STEM learning. Additionally, increased representation of female identifying students and Black employees in Illinois is another important benchmark as the state eclipses some national averages for employing Black individuals as well as women. This is really important for our work as we are passionate about making sure that women and girls as well as underrepresented groups have a place carved out for them within STEM careers, and that the work that we are doing as well as other conveners are doing in this space is showing returns is really fantastic, and hopefully these gaps continue to be narrowed over the coming few years. And then the additional strength in the within professionals and employment is that computer mathematics roles have surged over the last few years, and applied business professionals, particularly actuarial sciences, have really seen a surge over the last few years as well. General challenges for the state include a declining amount of overall degree production, so that's degrees outside of STEM. There has been a slight decline from 2021 to 2022 in the amount of overall degrees completed, which does contribute slightly to the STEM degree share improving as well as non-STEM degrees drop. So ideally, as the pandemic wanes, this is something that's going to reverse. But additionally, with the pandemic's effects, we're seeing an impact on the job market. There's been a significant impact on a number of different occupations, and as more support roles as something that we've noticed additionally that is contributing to this fall. There is a number of different careers for Illinoisans in engineering and computer science that require support technicians that we also count as STEM professionals in our research, and those support roles have seen significant declines over the last 5 years, particularly coinciding with the pandemic. Whereas engineering and computer science roles have declined slightly in that same time frame, about 1.95% and 0.5%, support roles have fallen by closer to 4.3% to 4.5% in that same time frame. So more must be done to make sure that STEM careers are accessible for people that are either completing a 4-year degree or maybe even some that are not completing a 4-year degree, and that's why we've expanded our focus to make sure that we're incorporating pre-baccalaureate degree earners, and really want to emphasize the importance of experiential learning and reskilling, which are both major components of the STEM talent report for this year, and will be featuring prominently in our conversation to come. But the path forward for ISTC as far as our approach to these issues and making sure that things are improving on multiple different fronts is that we are making sure that interdisciplinarity, I think I've gone too far. Yeah, the interdisciplinarity and a renewed focus on multidisciplinary STEM learning is focused on in STEM. We also are going to provide some additional data in our report on the impact of interdisciplinary education and the rise in interdisciplinary degrees. Some additional data in our report also offers insights as far as the impact that these different types of interdisciplinary learning programs can have, and reskilling opportunities are galore in Illinois. Second, the continued experiential learning outcomes is vitally important. We must continue to merge the ideas of supply and demand, as we are all learners. We are all reskillers, and so everybody being on the same page that learning is a necessity, it is vital to make sure that we're incorporating more and more non-traditional STEM focused learners into STEM careers, and there's definitely a number of different organizations doing this work. We call out a number of different organizations, including DPI's Tech Talent Labs, as well as the Jumpstart program at Kennedy King College. as best practices, but there is also a number of others that are doing this work that receive some highlights in our report. And then third and finally on this front, we are really kind of challenging state leaders as well as education and other workforce development programs to continue to promote and market their work and impact as much as possible. We give an example within the report of one particular state program, the State Apprenticeship Tax Credit Program, that has just been underutilized at the corporate level and at membership levels. And so making sure that those types of programs are continued to be marketing and that the program impacts are as clearly described as possible is really vital, and ISTC is really committed to making sure that those types of programs receive the respect and absolutely the credit that they deserve. And so, yeah, without going too much further into the weeds with the data, I do want to thank our incredible cover story partners that are listed alongside here. We do add some qualitative analysis in the STEM Talent Report, the full report that's available online, featuring some cover stories from these incredible individuals. And I would also like to extend a massive thank you to the federal partners that we utilize in collecting this information from multiple different data sets, including the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Occupational Employment and Wage Statistics Survey, the American Community Survey from the U.S. Census Bureau, and the National Center of Education Statistics completions data set, accessed via the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System. They are incredible, and hopefully as things continue to develop, we continue to be able to access their information for free. It is so useful for us to be able to do this type of work and for other types of conveners to do this work as well. And so with that, I am going to go ahead and transfer us over into our panel conversation. We are going to kind of accept some questions at the end of the panel conversation, so feel free to ask Dr. Macalo or myself some information about the data in the report. And before I introduce the panel, I do want to go ahead and start moving some of these chairs over on the right side over into the middle so we can have a great Chicago. Tech Launchpad is a racial and gender equity-centered tech initiative at Kennedy King College, and Lynette is a trained critical career coach with over 20 years of professional experience. And she focuses her work with a DEIJ-centered lens. Lynette has received over 15 awards and honors for her tremendous support and advocacy in tech for all and was as well a finalist for the 2023 Chicago Innovation Awards. She is a current third-year doctoral student in DEI and education with a focus on human resources development at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and an alum of UIUC with her Master's of Education in Human Resources Development and Management of e-learning for workplace learning and training. Thank you for joining us, Lynette. Karen Larson is next. Karen has spent the last 14 years bringing faculty, students, and companies together through unique experiential learning opportunities. And at the Discovery Partners Institute, Karen is responsible for developing and executing programs for four-year college and graduate students to increase their awareness of, sense of belonging in, and technical skills related to careers in the tech sector. Yes, she did. Previously, Karen managed a broad cross-section of experiential learning courses at Kellogg School of Management and ran a staff mentoring program at the East College of Business at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Karen has a bachelor's degree in manufacturing systems engineering from Kettering University and an MBA from Kellogg School of Management. Thank you for joining us, Karen. And last but certainly not least is Dr. Ann Clancy, who currently serves as the National Executive Higher Education Advisor and Strategist for T-Mobile USA, leading the company's strategy to provide resources to colleges and universities to eliminate the digital divide and improve access and equity for under-resourced students. Additionally, she works to help campuses to find ways to update their infrastructure and increase network capacity for educational and student experience. Ann is a leader in higher education and a community health advocate. She earned her Master's in Business Administration and is a Master of Online Teaching and earned her Doctorate in Education and Organizational Leadership. And we are so excited to have her today. So thank you for being here, Ann. Okay, so so to go ahead and kick off the panel, I do want to go ahead and lead in. I think, Karen, we'd like you to start to go ahead and talk to us a little bit about what tech-based education looks like across the state of Illinois for DPI, and talk about some programs in the state that your team looks to as leaders. And then maybe I think we'll move into Lynette afterwards, so I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Karen.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you to my personal cheering section. So we all know that there's sort of two trains of education for tech in education. We've got the formal system where we've got the academic high schools and colleges and universities, and then there's the more informal areas where you've got your certifications and apprenticeship programs and internships and things. We've got a lot of great organizations doing wonderful work in that space, like Breakthrough Tech, ISTC, our partners in community college, and Latinas in Tech that have their wonderful mentoring program. And DPI works across both the formal and informal spaces of that. We've got middle school programs, high school programs, community college programs, as well as a new offering that we're bubbling up for this summer, focused on freshman and sophomore college students, getting them their first taste of internship opportunities in the form of micro internships. And that really will serve to give them their first professional experience that they can leverage then into full-time opportunities. And then we have our more informal experiences in the form of an apprenticeship program that's been running for about a year and has shown great promise. And then undergirding all of this is teacher training initiatives. So we have partnered with the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign to put forth a CS teaching endorsement for in-service teachers. And that is really to address this major issue in offering education for computer science, which is really just the lack of teachers that we have, and the opportunity to present computing opportunities to students at the middle school and high school levels, not to mention elementary. Only 54% of high schools offer foundational computer science in the state of Illinois as of 2020. And that's, we're just not doing what we need to do based on Jonathan's presentation and how all jobs are tech jobs these days. So that's an area that we need to do a lot better, and I can't read without my glasses anymore. So I think that's all I have to say.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Tech Launchpad is an equity-centered tech initiative that supports all tech education students with access to tech resources and opportunities outside of the classroom, hyper-focusing and launched at Kennedy King College. We were officially launched in 2020. As you can imagine, things were paused shortly after that. So when the call went out for founding director of the Tech Launchpad program in the spring of 2022, absolutely applied and answered the call, and fortunately they picked little old me to lead the initiative. I'm a bit of an entrepreneur because part of the work that I do is not only supporting students with tech mentoring and tech career coaching, but really developing and looking at the data of the institution as a whole, and then into the credit side, the associate degree side of Kennedy King College, and the continuing education side. So credit side, self-explanatory. We offer web game, software development, IT networking, and cybersecurity as associate degrees. Similarly, in the credit, non-credit, continuing education side, we offer certifications in those areas, as well as micro-learning opportunities and micro-credentialing. Something that's exciting for us is that we have developed partnerships with Amazon. And so with the data around Kennedy King College, we are about over 80% Black identified, African American identified students, 15% Latinx identified students. There's changing demographics in the South Side area, particularly in the greater Inglewood area. We have over 10% LGBTQ plus identified students. Student veterans is about 10%, and there's over 60% of our students, I'm going to talk about the tech side of education, that are female identified, right? So when I say diversity, I mean it in various ways. And as you can imagine, at the community college level, over 80% of our students are first generation, right? So in looking at all that data, I developed programming, which I'll talk about shortly.
And speaking of that diversity and equity piece, I do want to kind of double click there. And underrepresented peoples, we know there's still a number of barriers on access for individuals within STEM learning, within STEM careers. And Anne, I know you are focused on higher education strategy for T-Mobile. Can you talk to us a little bit about how T-Mobile looks at community colleges as maybe a potential way of filling those gaps? And can we talk about some ways that you all think about removing barriers on STEM learning?
Yeah, so from a corporate perspective, credentials are important, and it could be a certification, it could be an associate's degree. We've hired a lot of cybersecurity professionals that have associate's degrees, and so community colleges are valuable. They're also valuable for entry-level positions in which then the company will continue to invest in the employees to continue their education, most often in computer science or in engineering, and so those are ways in which we look at stackable credentials, which is not a term that we use in the corporate world, but from my previous life in the colleges, I understand how important that is, and something that we continue to look at as a stackable credential, not in the corporate terms, but in something that we all understand, and something that's very valuable. It also keeps, thinking about like longevity and having employees retained. The investment that the companies do to create those stackable credentials and provide the education is one way that we use strategy to keep our employees.
Matt, you had a comment there about removing barriers on STEM within the community colleges approach as well.
Oh, absolutely. So in mentioning the data, I developed a program called the Tech Launchpad Scholars Program. It's an earn while you learn program where it provides a free associate's degree in cybersecurity or software development. The students will also, the scholars will also earn a $1,500 a month stipend, which is about $6,000 at the end of every semester up until they complete their 2-year degree. If they're full-time, within 2 years, and if they're part-time, within 4 years. And it's kind of a unique program, as you can imagine, because a lot of the times it's not lack of potential, but quite frankly, lack of finances, right? And so in removing that, we just launched it in September of 2023. I selected about 15 learners, 15 scholars, and happy to report that they moved on to this semester, spring of 2024, all 15 to continue their tech education at KKC. So more to come, but very excited and looking forward to supporting them further.
Barriers again?
Yeah.
Okay. A couple of things that we're doing to reduce barriers. Our apprenticeship program, DPI, as I mentioned earlier, is a little over a year old. It's kind of unique in that there's a period of time where students study on their own to get up to a level set where they're still maintaining their jobs outside of their educational pursuits. So they don't have to shift their lives while they're sort of getting a taste for CS and understanding if that's a pathway for them. And then once they meet the standards to fully apply to the program, if they're selected to be part of the next cohort, then they quit their full-time jobs and they enter a 12-week period of coursework. And during that time, they get a $2,500 a month stipend. So in our program, they're actually being paid to learn, which is awesome, because many of these people have families that they just can't, not have an income while they're looking for a new direction. So that's one area that we're looking to reduce barriers. The other way we're looking to reduce barriers is in our Digital Scholars Program, which is our summer 6-week program for juniors and seniors in high school. Each day of that program, we have speakers come in from industry. They represent the demographics of our program, which are about 75% Black and Latinx, about 40% female, So we bring in professionals that look like them to talk about their experiences, the challenges that they faced, how they overcome those challenges, and really, and many of them come from CPS as well. So about 80% of our students come from the CPS school system. So it's really giving them examples of, then they're done that, you can too.
Well, I love hearing all the data, so thank you all so much for that. I do want to direct a couple of questions here to Lynette and to Anne. Anne, we'll start with you. We're understanding more and more that one of the barriers on education that's maybe not talked about as often is these geographic barriers. The digital divide impacts rural areas in a different way than urban areas, and the differences between these two groups are significant in some ways. And so, Anne, can you share with us a little bit more about how T-Mobile is strategizing about conquering the digital divide and making sure that the gaps in education that we kind of more often don't think about are being kind of special or focused on?
Thanks, that's a great question. And to get personal for 1 second, a lot of people ask me what made me leave working in higher education and work at T-Mobile. And I'll tell you, it was the commitment of the company to look at sort of broad scale how to impact digital divide, digital equity from a K through 12 perspective and then into higher education. And to think about being able to work to affect access and equity at scale versus in a small community like I was, made a huge difference in my ability to think about what this work could really entail in terms of making a difference. And so I say that to say T-Mobile launched a $10.7 billion initiative to ensure that up to 10 million kids and their families were connected. And this is through free mobile internet. And it doesn't just include in rural areas and urban areas, it's predominantly focused on the rural areas. And right now, 98% of rural areas are covered by the 4G or 5G cellular connectivity. And so students it's actually pre-K through 12, who qualify for free reduced lunch also qualify for free internet for them and their families. And so what we're doing is then looking at trying to ensure that we're getting kids in the high school years in their junior and senior year, because if they get that free internet, they'll get it for 5 years. So it could essentially carry them through college. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is to ensure that there is no dead zones in terms of broadband, in terms of connectivity. If you don't know, if you haven't seen the commercials about T-Mobile, the 5G, radio frequency can turn into home internet. And so in areas where wiring and cabling might not be able, you might be able to do that cellular connectivity can actually provide and connect a whole home. Particularly, we're thinking about rural areas like Vermont, in Wyoming and Utah. And so those are ways that we're trying to ensure that there are no dead zones for home internet, which is so important for this work. And we know that education and technology are synonymous right now. Like, there is no good education unless there's technology that's enabled in it. And if students aren't able to have the technology and the access to what they need to do while they're at home, they're not going to succeed, and that's always in the homework gap, right? And so these are the types of things that connectivity, closing that digital divide, closing that technology disparity is going to really help think about what STEM's going to be like in the future.
I do have one more specific question from Lynette real quickly, and on the topic of the importance of interconnectivity and access to digital access in rural areas. It's a really important aspect of the STEM talent report this year is that business degrees and the drive increasing in amount of STEM business degrees is partly driven by the amount of online learning that is accessible through business degree programs throughout the state of Illinois through our wonderful institutions of higher learning. And in order to make sure that that's a focus, it is vital that these individuals have access to internet in rural areas. And so that is a really important and significant contribution that T-Mobile is making. Lynette, for you, this is a specific question about diversity in Chicago, diversity writ large for women within STEM. All students are increasingly getting opportunities to practice STEM experiential learning, but what can be done to eliminate gender gaps within STEM employment, and how does experiential learning play in the game?
It's a $1 million question as well, but we're trying to do our small part in regards to being part of the solution and not the problem. So over 50% of our students are student parents. And so we do take that into account heavily at Kennedy King College. So much so, we do have a physical space called the Center for Working Families, where student parents can have access to resources outside of the classroom to support their family needs. In addition, we do have an on-campus child care lab, which students can apply for. And then in regards to digital access, Tech Launchpad, not only we have an on-campus lab that our tech education students have access to, both our daytime students and our nighttime students, but most of our classes are hybrid. And that really helps, if not fully online, particularly on the continuing education side. And so that really helps our students in various ways to have access to our tech education, particularly in the South Side, really destigmatizing that in a way that supports our students in a more meaningful way.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Lynette. And I think we're going to transfer into a separate topic now. We're going to talk a little bit about corporate connectivity later, but we're also going to be discussing interdisciplinarity on the topic of Dr. Macklow's incredible keynote presentation. We're going to be kind of discussing how interdisciplinarity can impact STEM learners across the state of Illinois. We know that interdisciplinarity is a focus on multiple disciplines, incorporating STEM learning into multiple different degree tracks, and interdisciplinary STEM education can show returns for employees as well as employers, as Dr. Macklow called attention to. I did want to kind of open the floor here and let each of you discuss how you believe that interdisciplinary STEM education can be useful in preparing individuals for careers within STEM or maybe even outside of STEM. And let's go ahead and start with you.
Where do you start with that question? I mean, I think in every field, even our engineers have to have interdisciplinary ideas in the way that we work. We have to collaborate. We have to be able to be creative in our thinking. We have to write. We have to, communicate. And I think that, from a STEM perspective, it's really important that there is that right-brained part of the education that's important. But for those of us who were not maybe in the STEM field to begin with, having the knowledge of computer science and data use and data analytics is so important in every aspect of, well, from a corporate perspective, right? To be able to understand and communicate what needs to happen, because there's no decision that data is not involved in. But to just give you a statistic, 80% of our employees that go back to school while they're employed, it's computer science or business analytics. So to show like where the need is in the skill set for somebody who wants to advance into an executive role, the proof's in the pudding there. So I don't think I can say any more than that.
So I'm going to embarrass this person in the audience. Raise your hand, Alejandra. She's an alum of City College of Chicago with an interdisciplinary education and work experience, so an alum of Salesforce. So she is absolutely an example of City College of Chicago education, particularly in STEM. But in particular to Kennedy King College, we just launched an announcement a couple days ago that Malcolm X will have an on-site nursing program at KKC so that nursing can have, the nursing education program can be accessible to Southside residents.
Wonderful.
Extremely excited about that for more reasons than one. So that to me is just a really phenomenal example of public and private partnerships and that includes, community colleges can really work.
Great, I'd forgotten the question. Interdisciplinary.
Yes.
Oh yes, just building off from what Jonathan said earlier. I mean, the real world is not siloed into chemistry and biology and mathematics. I mean, it's all integrated. So in order to put employees out into the workforce that can address the grand challenges that we're facing regardless of the topic area, we need to make sure that we're educating interdisciplinary students, and experiential learning is key to that. And I do say that with a little bit of a bias because that's sort of my area of expertise. I actually went through a co-op program as an undergraduate student for all 5 years at GMI Engineering and Management Institute. That was so eye-opening and transformative to be able to experience engineering while I was being educated in the topic. It's truly beneficial. And then to work in experiential learning for Kellogg and now at the University of Illinois, it's very, very important that students, regardless of the institution they go to, regardless of whether they grew up in rural America or urban America, everybody needs a chance to practice what they're learning in a workplace. And I know we're going to get into corporate engagement later, but that's where we need our corporate partners to really step up and provide those opportunities, whether it be at scale, like projects in the classroom, or micro internships, or full-time internships, or co-op opportunities. They're all really critical. I think that's. Oh, I did want to highlight that one of the areas that DPI is leveraging some of these experiential learning opportunities is there's a data science discovery course that is the gateway to data science at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And that is a course that we've been able to offer because of a great partnership with the two faculty members that have built that course. For the last 2 years, we've been able to offer that during the Digital Scholars Program in the summer. And students complete projects in that course, capstone projects where they're leveraging different data sources for sports, for fashion, for social justice, for food deserts, across the whole spectrum of interests. And that's so important to be able to engage a student with whatever happens to light them up, whatever they're passionate about. Show them how data and computer science can help illustrate the problem and a potential solution that they're passionate about.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, education, especially interdisciplinary with STEM, is going to be accessible if we don't think about the disparities in access to the technology, access to the connectivity for the students to be able to live it, breathe it, sleep, practice it at home. And I think that's something that we often will overlook. I mean, you said hybrid classes are really important, right? And we see hybrid, high flex as being kind of the preference, particularly for non-traditional students who may have other responsibilities such as caretaking or jobs. And thinking about, when we think about interdisciplinary education and we think about sort of expanding that, we also need to think about making sure that we make the technology accessible for the students. So I just wanted to say that because sometimes it's overlooked.
Absolutely, that's an excellent point, and thank you for following up there. I think we're going to have a few minutes to discuss corporate connectivity, so I think we'll be leading off with Ann here on this conversation as well. But early in the conversation, you each spoke to the value that experiential learning has for students in STEM. We were just discussing it. Internships and apprenticeships play an important role in these types of experiential learning opportunities. What is the most effective way to gain corporate buy-in for conveners and nonprofits in the space that are trying to create these programs and get them off the ground? And if you could start, and then Lynette and Karen, if you could talk about some best practices, that'd be great.
From an internship perspective, I think corporations are all in, right? It's a great way to get some creative work done in a short period of time. I think we missed the mark on apprenticeships, and I think there's a lack of understanding sort of holistically about what an apprenticeship is from a corporate perspective. I also think that the length of time is a little bit hard to grasp. And so thinking about how might we, from the higher ed side, the education side, rephrase the apprenticeship piece or rethink the way we interact with corporations about apprenticeships, that might make it a little bit more meaningful. And that's something that I'm working on. But the internships are great, and I'd love to think about expanding those. And ensuring that we're reaching populations that we might not be just because it's convenient. For example, at T-Mobile, we have our corporate headquarters are in Bellevue, Seattle, Washington. We have a couple of regional business offices. We might have a couple opportunities for internships, but primarily it's Bellevue, Washington, and if students don't have the resources to get themselves there or to spend a summer there, you know, they're not going to be able to do it, and we're missing the mark on some really good talent that might not have the resources to do that. So how might we reach out to our RBOs and regional business offices and think about expanding the internships in a meaningful way? And those are other things that I think from corporate perspectives, we're not the only ones who have that problem, right? We want to focus on our headquarters. How do we expand it and expand our satellite campuses or our, you know, regional business offices to expand that accessibility of those internships? So those are some of my thoughts, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to work on it. I haven't had a lot of discussions with my colleagues in other sectors of the corporation on it, but we can start somewhere, right? Yeah, absolutely.
So raise your hand if you're a current college student in the room. Current college student. Raise them high, be proud. Raise them high. Okay, wonderful. And raise your hand if you recently graduated from a 2-year or 4-year institution within the past 5 years. Okay, wonderful. So we do have some tech talent in the room. So at Tech Launchpad, I would be remiss if I didn't share that we do have a public-private partnership with SDI Presence. They're a Chicago-based IT cybersecurity firm, but their work is national, and they have committed $1 million over a 3-year period to bringing about Tech Launchpad at the very beginning, and will continue to do so within the next 3 years. And they have a tech apprenticeship program that was launched this past summer, where they hired within City College of Chicago, but in particular at KKC, they hired 5 tech apprentices. Out of the 5, 1 of the 5 was hired as a permanent full-time cybersecurity employee, so very excited for her. And those kinds of things, you know, I'd like to see multiplied tenfold. But it is happening. It's happening at a rate that, you know, I'm hoping will continue. And so the tech apprenticeships within KKC will hopefully grow. And there's also the Aon Tech Apprenticeship Program, which I can share shortly after.
Again, remind me the question.
Discussing all things best practices for
Best
experiential
practices.
learning opportunities and connecting with corporates through that.
Yeah, I think the thing that we in higher education need to remember is that companies don't think the same way as higher education. So we need to meet them from their point of reference. So return on investment, skills need to do the job, and just getting the work done, right? So our apprenticeship folks really think about those 3 areas and really try to make it easy for companies to say, yes, we will take your interns. But it's a long process, right? It takes a lot of time to build those relationships, develop the trust. But once we have that relationship developed, we can actually tailor the experience that the apprentices are going through and tweak it. If they're going to be using Salesforce, if they're going to be using Workday, if they're going to be using a particular tech platform, we can tailor certain elements of the training program so that by the end of that 12-week period, when apprentices are getting their actual hardcore training, that they are that much closer to being job ready on day one. In addition, we are working not just on those hard tech skills, we're working on the soft skills of making sure that they understand what it's like to work in a business environment, how they conduct themselves on hybrid work calls, how, just to show up and get the job done. The great thing about these folks is that they're 34, right? Average age, they're mature. They brought to themselves a world, a lifetime of skills. They're from physical therapy, they're from PhDs in music performance, they're from hospitality, as several bartenders. They come from all walks of life, and they bring, definitely career changers. They're bringing all of those skills into their interdisciplinary approach to coding and problem solving within that tech space. So, yeah.
When I talk to our hiring managers, adaptability and the ability to problem solve are the two top things that they look for. So if there's a tech literacy, if there's a literacy and the ability to navigate sort of these platforms, I think it's, yes, exactly. It's a lot less important to be, super knowledgeable on one platform, but it's really about how do you navigate and how do you figure it out and how do you adapt, because we change systems. I've been at T-Mobile for 3 years, we change systems every year. So my point is the adaptability is really important. And I think that's what you teach when you're teaching those things.
Yeah, and on the topic of learning to learn, it is fantastic to be on this panel and moderating this panel with 3 incredible women that are leading STEM work throughout the state of Illinois. I do want to conclude the panel conversation with giving each of these wonderful women an opportunity to do a brief 30-second or so celebration of their whys in STEM, as this is intended to be a celebration of STEM all across the state of Illinois. Our index series is always intended to celebrate, and so I'd love it if each of you could give us a brief kind of overview of your whys for why you do the work that you do in STEM.
Thanks, and I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak and to be here with so many great minds. My why is everybody deserves to be able to do what they want to do, and that's access and equity. And every attempt to work to break down walls and barriers is what my why is, and so that's all I have. Thank you.
So not only do I work in the south side of Chicago at KKC, but I'm also a community member. And I'm an older mom to a 7-year-old son who absolutely loves math. And so in my mind, as I work with our student parents, as I work with our mostly students of color, if not me, then who, right? And in particular, I'll also wear my sleeve that I'm a first generation high school and college graduate. And so people have given me an opportunity, people have said yes to me, people have given me a chance, and I'm inspired by it. So I want to be that person to my students, to my alumni, and assist them in however I can within my power, so that they can also experience upper socioeconomic mobility and be able to have quality of life as well through tech employment.
I don't have to ask for this question over again. Can I say how privileged I feel to be on a panel with 3 women in tech, just like Sam said. I was an engineer. I was often the only female in the room at General Motors when I was working professional in the field. So I know what it's like to be, sort of in the minority. And I always feel that education is a pathway to economic mobility, opportunities for people to change their life circumstances. Through the various programs that we offer at DPI, I feel like we're doing that. We're introducing middle schoolers and high schoolers to topics in tech and giving them an opportunity that they might not have to learn about the opportunities, especially those opportunities in Chicago, and then pursue them, giving them the next steps in their pathway all the way through. So I just love the opportunity to give students the opportunity to, change their circumstances and better their lives.
Well, thank you very much to each of you. That does wrap up our panel conversation, but I did say I would leave the floor open for a few questions if anyone was interested in asking our panel conversants any type of questions, or if they would like to ask any questions about the data in the STEM Talent Report, or even the data in Dr. Makla's incredible keynote presentation. Please, if you want to, we can pass the microphone to you. I think we have time for about 3 questions, and of course, if you have any questions afterwards, feel free to come up to any of us. I'm sure we'd be open to talking to you about the information we've shared. Additionally, if you're interested in anything in the STEM Talent Report, it is available at our website, istcoalition.org. I'd love to do pluggables for each one of these amazing people on the floor as well, but I don't know if we quite have time, so please feel free to reach out to any of us about our work, and we'd love to share more about the work that these incredible organizations are doing. And so with that, any questions for us? Wonderful, okay. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you for a great panel. Question, for the disciplines acquired, like hands-on lab experience, what did the pandemic teach us about not being able to be in person to do that kind of work? Thanks. Or study.
I got nothing.
I can start. I think that the pandemic taught us that we needed to use technology and connectivity, right? So we need to have access to an internet to be able to do things virtually, and that hasn't changed. It didn't start at the pandemic. It just opened our eyes to the disparities and what was lacking, and it also, I think, sped a lot of our faculty, a lot of our teachers, to understand that they needed to be a little bit more nimble in being able to use technology to transmit knowledge and information through that technology. And so it's not changing, it's continuing and persisting, and that also then opened up our eyes to a lot of the technology divide, a lot of the digital divide. And so thinking about access and equity, right? We need to ensure that we make these platforms available, affordable, so that people can learn wherever they are. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, so in addition, we have what's called the Borrow Laptop Program, and these are internal refurbished laptops at KKC, but it's not enough. And so I was recently introduced to PCs for People. They're a Chicago-based nonprofit where they refurbish all sorts of technology, not just laptops, at scale. And they have a Southside office, and so we're in conversation right now, myself and the CEO, to see how my grant can pay for some laptops as needed for any of our tech education students, particularly on the associate's degree side. So it's really, for me, with my interdisciplinary education from the University of Little Rock and Champaign, Master's in Tech, College of Education, shout out, has assisted me in thinking much more innovatively than before on how we can support individuals that just don't have the access and need the support and access to digital products at ASAP for their tech education at our institution and beyond.
I thought of something. It's not directly related to labs necessarily, but during the pandemic, we did launch a research scholars program where we invited students from UIC, UIUC, and IIT to work collaboratively on team projects that supported the work that DPI science teams were working on. So they were working on AI in construction. They were working on a virtual reality simulation for cancer survivors and helping them work on mental health issues. They were working on some really amazing projects, and it was an amazing experience for them. And you can do that because we can all get together and work online via Zoom and technology.
The use of simulation labs is something that I think is just increasing, and there are software companies that are building AR and VR labs. And a lot of specialized accreditation will also allow for simulation as part of the clinic hours. So there is definitely an eye-opening sort of thing that happened during the pandemic, and it's continuing to evolve. So I think it's going to make things more accessible in the future.
Yeah, and for ISTC, we had an incredible opportunity a few months ago to visit the Jump Simulation Building in Peoria, Illinois, and their work there as part of the School of Medicine there is really incredible as far as the experiential learning opportunities, and they've really made sure to incorporate remote learning and all things experiential learning, even though it's from afar. And that's really been an incredible effort that is occurring within the state. Is another kind of conversation to be had about best practices in Illinois. And so the Jump simulation folks are doing a really great job of this as well. And so definitely recommend people take a look at their work and the team, the work that they're doing there. But any other questions that we can pass the mic to? All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. Feel free to snack, mingle, network out in the lobby here or within the room, and feel free to approach any of us if you're interested in the information we shared as mentioned. And of course, stay in touch. We'd love to keep networking with you all and keep the conversation going. So thank you so much, and without further ado, go ahead and end things out.